Today, we are diving into the fascinating story of Chad, a country with a rich tapestry of cultures, landscapes, and struggles. But before we delve in, did you know Chad is often called the Dead Heart of Africa? This nickname stems from its central location on the continent and its vast desert. The Republic of Chad is a landlocked country in Central Africa. It is bordered by Libya to the north, Sudan to the east, the Central African Republic to the south, Cameroon and Nigeria to the southwest, and Niger to the west. The area was brought under French Equatorial Africa in 1905. After the end of the Second World War, political activity among the locals gained momentum. Chadian Progressive Party, PPT, headed by Gabriel Lesete, was formed in February 1947. The Chadian Democratic Union, UDT, followed in November the same year. PPT was mainly a Christian and Amidst Southern Party, and UDT for the Islamic North. PPT won 1957 election. French Equatorial Africa was dissolved in 1958. Lesete faced numerous challenges. He was from Panama and came to Chad as a colonial administrator. He was therefore not indigenous and lost a vote of confidence as a result. He was replaced by Francois Tombalabey, who formed the government in 1959. On 12th July 1960, Chad gained the independence with Tombalabey as the first president. Tombalabey presided an authoritarian regime and in 1962 banned opposition political parties. His regime favored people from the south at the expense of the northerners. This led to formation of opposition movement on the north, such as National Liberation Front of Chad, FROLNAT, and Chad National Front, FNT, in the East Central region. A taxation revolt in 1965 caused the start of a bloody civil war. During the period of war, the government became very intolerant. Many suspected dissidents were arrested and charged, including a senior military leader, Felix Malum, who was imprisoned in 1972. The government was ultimately overthrown in 1975 and Tombalabey killed. The coup was led by Noel Odinga, who released Malum from prison to come and lead the country. Despite the new leadership, civil war continued, but shifting from northerners against southerners to northerners against each other. Hissene Habre, who had made prime minister under Malum, had teamed up with Guokoni Guadei in FROLNAT. Later, the two fell out and Habre formed Armed Forces of the North, FAN. Peace talks were held in Lagos, Nigeria, and Malum resigned. A transitional government headed by Guokoni was formed in 1979. Habre headed the defense ministry in the new government of national unity. Shortly after, Libya sided with Guokoni in a conflict that followed against Habre. A peacekeeping force from the Organization of African Unity, OAU, stayed neutral, and Guokoni was overthrown in 1982. Habre took over the control of the country. Habre established a one-party system under his National Union for Independence and Revolution. Due to his opposition to Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, he received French and American support. He was in charge during the Libyan-Chadian conflict from 1986 to 1987, which he won. He was overthrown in 1990 by his former ally, Idris Deby Itno, and fled to Senegal. Deby and his Patriotic Salvation Movement, MPS, inherited a deeply fractured state. The social, economic, and political institutions had been damaged by years of instability. His government had therefore the task of consolidating these institutions back to a functional state. However, some rebel forces were still operating in the country. In order to restore confidence, he initiated talks with his opponents, leading to multi-party democracy in the elections that were held in 1996. Deby won in the second round against Abdelkader Kamuge. His government signed peace deals with rebel groups, thus bringing about a semblance of peace in the country. With the newly acquired peace, the MPS government embarked on restoring basic state functions and entered agreements with World Bank and IMF. The MPS went ahead to win the next election in 2001. During this time, the government was also working on oil exploitation, which had not been possible during the years of instability, and Chad became an oil-producing nation in 2003. In the same year, the country started receiving refugees of Darfur conflict in Sudan. This influx of refugees opened the door for another civil war from 2005 to 2010. The war was led by former allies of Deby and foe, who were unhappy with Deby's rule. Members of the Zagawa, Deby's ethnic group, were being favored by the system. They were also unhappy with the change in the constitution, which removed presidential term limit. Others in the conflict were Janjaweed militia from Sudan and alleged Sudanese government. Libya mediated in the conflict. Unfortunately, revenue generated in the newfound wealth was being diverted into military use. The government was now moving away from the World Bank-sponsored economic recovery program. After the civil war, the government also intervened in regional conflicts, both in the Sahel and neighboring countries. It was instrumental in the fight against Boko Haram in Nigeria and Niger. In April 2021, President Idris Deby was killed while fighting with rebels in the north of Chad. He was succeeded by his son, Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, who became head of a transitional military council. He gained support from France as an important ally. Presidential elections scheduled 2024 have already been marred by suspicion after the killing of one of the leading opponents. This act was condemned by various sources, including France. In this history of Chad, it seemed that there was a high level of suspicion amongst the political leaders. Tribalism, regionalism, and authoritarianism marked its leadership. This made it difficult for successive governments to focus on nation building. A power shift from Southerners to Northerners has also not been the panacea to the problems in this oil-producing nation. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating tales from Africa. Until next time, please don't forget to subscribe.